day, everyone. I'm Sana S. Uwang presenting the Chapter 4 World of Ideas. So, for today's video, we will explain to you and understand the evolution of media and determine how global media influence different culture and affects global integration. So, let's proceed in our topic, the lesson 1, global media culture. So, global media culture explore the relationship between the media, culture, and globalization. It is also the mass communication on a global level, allowing people across the world to share and access the same information, whereas media refers to various means of information. For example, newspaper that gives information or opinion about current events and news. Media have an important impact on cultural globalization. The media provide extensive transnational transmission of cultural products. Media contribute to the formation of communicative networks and social structure. The rise of new, global media has imposed their system on large portions of the world. New media is the mass communication of using digital technology such as the internet. So now, let's proceed the evolution of media and globalization. 5 period to the study of globalization and media. We have 1. Oral communication, script, print, electronic, and digital. Oral communication. Language was developed around 1.75 million years ago. In this period, human speech is the oldest and most enduring of all media. Language allowed humans to cooperate and share information. According to Osler, language was their most important tools when speech developed into language. It has become a medium that aid globalization. But how? Language helps humans to move and allows them to cooperate, such as share information that would help the human ability to travel and adapt various environment, like the land, water, and climate. Also share information about tools and weapons lead to speed of technology. Next, script. The very first writing allowed humans to communicate, share knowledge, and ideas. First writing was recorded 4,000 years ago. Early writing system began to appear after 3000 BCE with a symbol carved into clay tablets. With the writing surfaces, in this period, humans had a medium that propelled globalization. Script allowed a permanent codification of economic, cultural, religious, and political practice, and were spread over large distance and handed down through time. Next, printing press, invented around 4th and 5th century AD. It is said that it transformed business, market, nation, school, church, and many more. It also started the information revolution. Before it merged, the production of writing documents was low and expensive. With the birth of printing press, reading materials was surprisingly made cheaper and easily spread to everyone, and really helped foster globalization. Printing press was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in 15th century. Example of printing press: newspaper, magazine, newsletter, and etc. Next, electronic media. It was introduced in the beginning of 19th century. This required electromagnetic energy, electricity, to use. Example of electronic media are telegraph, telephone, radio, film, and television. In 1973, invention of cell phone dominated the world. The telegraph became a global medium for it eventually sent coded messages. In this period, telephone with its ability to transmit speed over distance became the next communication breakthrough. Radio, the wireless telegraph that transmitted music and news, reaching regions without construction of wires and roads. Television is considered the most powerful and work together. visual and film with radio, largely because of the television. The world became a global village. And lastly, digital media. It's a type of electronic media where information is stored in digital form. It uses computer technology to communicate information. Example of digital media are computer, social media, website, and etc. In this period, everyone with computer has access to economic information. It also allows industry to access the global marketplace. The social media allows citizens to communicate among themselves and adapt new practice and culture, such as music, education, fashion, arts, and many more. As you can see, media made globalization possible. In the period of media and globalization, we saw marked influence of media on globalization. It is beyond impossible to think that globalization is merging without the influence of media. Good day everyone, I'm Sana S. Uwang presenting the chapter 4.
Cultural globalization process. Cultural globalization refers to the sharing of ideas, meanings, habits, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. Involves the formation of shared norms and knowledge with which people associate their individual collective cultural identities. Ang globalisasyon pangkultura ay tumutukoy sa paghatid ng mga idea, kahulugan at pagpapahalaga sa buong mundo sa paraan mapalawak at mapaigting ang ugnayang panglipunan. Ang prosesong ito ay minarkahan ng karaniwang pagkonsumo ng mga kultura na ikinalat ng internet. Like for example, American McDonald's. Ang original ng American McDonald's ay sa Amerika. Para makakuha ng maraming customer ang Amerika, kailangan nilang gumawa ng advertisement at patalastas para maikayat o maingganyo ang maraming tao na bumili o kumain. Ngunit dahil sa kapangyarihan ngayon ng internet o television, hindi lang buong American people ang nakapanood nito, but all around the world. And because of that, other countries all influenced to build that own McDonald's fast food, and that's how globalization process work. Cultural globalization is also a phenomenon by which the experience of everyday life, as influenced by the diffusion of commodities and ideas, reflect a standardization of cultural expressions around the world. Hybridizations. John Peters suggests that cultural globalization involves human integration and hybridization, arguing that it is possible to detect cultural mixing across continents and regions going back many centuries. Ang hybridization, marami ito siyang manunulat. So, iminumungkahi ng maraming manunulat na ang globalisasyon ng kultura ay isang pagmatagalang proseso ng kasaysayan. Isa na dito si John Peters. Iminungkahi ni John Peters na ang kultura daw ng globalisasyon ay nagsasangkop ng pagsasama-sama ng tao at hybridization na nanangatwira na posibleng makita ang paghalo ng kultura sa mga kontinente at ang mga rehiyon na maraming siglo. Isa na lang sa halimbawa ang paggalaw ng mga gawaing pangrelihiyon, wika at ang kultura na nagdala ng kolonisasyon ng mga Espanyol sa Americans. Ang karanasan sa India, upang kumuha ng isang halimbawa, ay nagpakita ng parehong pluralisasyon na epekto ng kultura ng globalisasyon at ang pagmatagalang kasaysayan. Homogenization. emphasized the transfiguration of worldwide diversity into a pandemic westernized consumer cultures. Ang isang alternatibong pananaw sa kultural na globalisasyon ay binibigyan diin ang pagbabagong anyo ng pandaigdigan pagkakaiba-iba tungo sa isang uniforming westernized na kultura ng mamimili. Ang ilang mga kritiko ay nangangatwiran na ang pangingibabaw ng kulturang Amerikano na nakaka-impluwensya sa buong mundo ay magreresulta sa katapusan ng pagkakaiba-iba ng kultura. Ang ganitong kultural ng globalisasyon ay maaaring humantong sa isang monoculture na tao. Ang prosesong ito ng nauunawan bilang kultural na imperialismo. So, ang homogeneization, ito yung pangdaigdigan pagkakaiba-iba. Halimbawa na lang ng McDonald's is ang McDonald's ay galing to sa Amerika. So, sabi natin dun sa nating pinalakay ng i-advertisement nila ito sa internet, di kaya sa TV, televisions, ay naimpluwensyahan ang mga maraming tao at ibang bansa, kaya nagpatayo sila ng sarili nilang build ng McDonald's. Sa ibang mga tao naman, ang akala nila yung Amerikano daw ay yan yung nakakasira daw ng ating mga pananaw sa kultura. Gayunpaman ay hindi po tayo maniniwala doon. Dahil ang kanila po ay masasabi nating maganda ang kanilang mga paitut tungo sa ibang bansa. Conflict intensifications, class of civilizations. Samuel Huntington emphasized the fact that while the world is becoming smaller and interconnected, the interaction between people of different cultures enhances civilization consciousness that in turn invigorate differences. Ang isang pang-alternatibong pananaw ay nangangatwiran na bilang reaksyon sa proseso ng kultural na globalisasyon. Ang isang class of civilization ay maaaring lumitaw sa katunayan sa halip na maabot ang isang pandaigdigan pamayanan pangkultura. Ang mga pagkakaiba sa kulturang pinatalas ng mismong prosesong ito ng kultura ng globalisasyon ay pagmula ng tunggalian 17. Bagamat hindi maraming komentarista ang sumasang-ayon na ito ay dapat kilalanin bilang isang class of civilizations, mayroon pang kalahatan pagkakaisa na ang kultura ng globalisasyon ay isang ambivalent process na nagdala ng matinding pakiramdam ng lokal na pagkakaiba at ideolohikal na paligsahan. Bilang kalahi si Benjamin Barber sa kanyang aklat na Jihad versus Macworld ay nangangatwiran para sa ibang kultura ng division ng mundo. Sa kanyang aklat na Macworld ay kumakatawan sa isang mundo ng globalisasyon at pagdaigdigan, pagkakonekta at pagtutulungan na naghahanap upang lumikha ng isang komersyal na homogeneous. Ang homogeneous na pangdaigdigan network na ito ay naghati sa 4 imperatives: market, resource, information technology of ecological imperatives. Sa kabilang banda, ang jihad ay kumakatawan sa tradisyonal at pagpapanatili ng pagkakakilanlan ng isang tao, samantalang Clash of Civilization portrays a world with five collisions of nation-state.
Good day everyone. Lesson 1. Global Media Culture. Letter C. Globalization of Culture and Media. And letter D. Cultural Imperialism. Globalization of culture and media. The globalization of culture is often chiefly imputed to international mass media. The mass media are seen today as playing a key role of enhancing globalizations, facilitating culture exchange and multiple flows of information and image between countries through international news broadcasts, television programming, new technologies, film, and music. Before the 1990s, mainstream media system in most countries of the were relatively national in scope since the most communication media have become increasingly global, extending their reach beyond the nation state to conquer audience worldwide. So, ang globalisasyon ng kultura ay kadalasang pangunahing binibilang sa international na mass media. Pagkatapos ng lahat ng mga kontemporaryong teknolohiya ng media tulad ng satellite, television at internet ay lumikha ng tuloy-tuloy na daloy ng mga transnational na imahe na nag-uugnay sa mga madla sa buong mundo. So, how those media affect globalization of culture? Paano nakakaapekto ang media sa globalisasyon ng kultura? So, ang media ay mahalagang aspekto sa kultura ng globalisasyon sa dalawang magkaugnay na paraan. Una, ang media ay nagbibigay ng malawak na transnational na paghahatid ng mga produktong pangkultura. At ang pangalawa, sila ay nag-aambag sa pagbuo ng mga communicative network at social structures. So, what is the relationship of global media to culture? Global media culture defines the way we interact and communicate with an entity or body of things in a way that facilitates a process of building connection through those processes. For example, media can be used to create stories to support an idea. Letter D. Cultural imperialism is the domination of one culture over another. Cultural imperialism can take the form of general attitude or an active formal and deliberate policy, including military action. Economic or technological factors may also play a role. The idea of cultural imperialism by Tomlins on 2012 indicates that one or more cultures are imposing themselves more or less consciously on other cultures, thereby destroying local culture in whole or more likely in part. Cultural imperialisms occurs when the traditional and way of life of a group of people, whether an ethnic minority or an entire nation, are displaced by those of another. Core concept of cultural imperialism. Theory of cultural imperialism: the less economically prominent cultures essentially import examples of culture from other countries, mainly from Western countries, which have the economic mainly from Western countries, which have the world cultural media mostly via the global transmission of media. So, ang cultural imperialism ito ay tumutukoy sa paggamit ng dominasyon sa mga relasyong pangkultura kung saan ang mga halaga, gawi at kahulugan ng isang makapangyarihang dayuhang kultura ay ipinapatawag sa isa o higit pang katutubong kultura. So, how does globalization lead to cultural? Globalization facilitates global communication and the spread of cultural perspective through new media and technologies advancement. So they have a two example of cultural imperialism. Cultural Romanization was imposed on many parts of Rome's empire by many regions receiving Roman culture unwillingly as a form of cultural imperialism. For example, when Greece was conquered by the Roman armies, Rome set about altering the culture of Greece to conform with Roman ideas. So the greatest examples of culture imperialism is the native tribes' ownership of casinos on their land granted by federal laws. Thank you.
Religion. So ano nga ba ang globalization of religion? Globalization refers to the historical process by which all the world's people increasingly came to live in a single social unit. Among the consequences of this amplification for religion have been that globalization encourages religious pluralism. Globalization further provides fertile ground for a variety of non-intentionalized religious manifestation. So ang globalisasyon na ay tumutukoy sa makasaysayang proseso kung saan ang lahat ng mga tao sa mundo ay lalong namumuhay sa isang unit ng lipunan. Kabilang sa mga kahihinatnan ng implikasyon na ito ay para sa relihiyon ay ang globalisasyon ay naghihikayat sa pluralismo ng relihiyon. Ang globalisasyon ay higit pang nagbibigay ng matabang lupa para sa iba't ibang institutional na pagpapakita ng relihiyon. Isa sa mga example nito sa Pilipinas is those major religions in the Philippines is like example of Roman Catholic Christianity followed by Islam and other types of Christianity. And other Christian groups in the country include Jehovah's Witnesses, Latter-day Saints, Assemblies of God, Seventh-day Adventists, and numerous others. So there are three paradigms regarding to the role of religion in the globalization process. The modernist, the postmodernist, and the pre-modernist. The modernist specializes in books, stationery, home-aware artworks, and prints related to the 20th century and modernist architecture and design. So one of examples of modernism in the Philippines is the most promising young artists who were seeking a way out of Solo impasses. So ito sila the triumvirate of Idides Gallo, Ocampo Carlos, Francisco extended to the 13 moderns, which included Vicente Manansala, Cesar Legazpi, and Romeo V. The postmodernist. Postmodernism is an intellectual stance or mode of discourse defined by an attitude of skepticism toward what is considered as the grand narratives and ideologies of modernism, as well as opposition to epistemic certainty and stability of meaning. Claims to objective fact are dismissed as a neo-realism. So ang postmodernismo ay isang intelektual na paninindigan o paraan ng diskurso na tinutukoy ng isang saloobin ng pag-ailangan sa kung ano ang itinuturing nito bilang mga dakilang salaysay at ideolohiya ng modernismo. So isa sa mga example ng postmodernist ay that focuses that on the reality of individual, that denies statements that claim to be the true for all people, isn't often expressed in a pared down style in arts, literature, and culture. An example of thought of postmodernism is the idea that not all people would see stealing as negative. The pre-modernist. So ano nga ba ang the pre-modernist? A person with a style, approach, and viewpoint characteristic of period before the introduction of modernism, o isang taong may estilo, diskarte o pananaw na katangian ng isang panahon bago ang pagpapakilala ng modernismo. So, ang isang example nito is anyone who reject evolution and favors old bebos from 2,000 years ago is pre-modernist. So, ang meaning lang nito is kung sino mang anyone na rinireject yung evolution of upgrade ng mga bagay-bagay at naka-favor lang ito sa mga lumang bagay like old Bibles from 2,000 years ago is considered as a pre-modernist. The Bible is modern and outdated, although itong si Larry Wall is example of a pre-modernist, is claims to be a postmodernist because I consider him to be a pre-modernist since he's an evangelical Christian. So ang pre-modernist is hindi siya nakikibagay sa mga bagong o makabagong mga bagay na nakabase sa evolution, like yung mga updated, upgraded. So naka-favor pa rin siya sa mga lumang bagay. Example lang itong old Bibles from 2,000 years ago is consider ka na as a pre-modernist. Effects of globalization to religion. So ano nga ba ang epekto ng globalisasyon sa isang relihiyon? Narito ang pag-aral ng Meknes. Sinasabi dito that religion and globalization persistently engage in a flexible relationship in which the former relies on the latter in order to thrive and flourish, while at the same time challenging its hybridizing effects. So ano nga ba ang tinutukoy ni Meknes dito sa kanyang sinasabi? So ang ibig lang sabihin ng hybridization is cultural hybridization and globalization could be closely called as an item that involve the process or activities of blending of local culture with the foreign through economic generating effort and make adjustment to felt culture norms of adapted destination. So ang mga pinakakilala or sa main example nito dito sa Pilipinas is those global restaurant chains like Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's or KFC. Kasi ang ginagawa nila dito is they modify their menus to suit the taste or more of more different cultures. So ang ginagawa ng mga global restaurants na ito is binibase nila yung menus nila sa mga lugar kung saan meron ito para maging suit doon sa taste ng culture kung saan nakatayo itong mga restaurant na ito.
Good day everyone, I am Hasmin Pisalangi and I'm going to report the types of religious organization and five major world religions. Many types of religious organization exist in modern societies. Sociologists usually group them according to their size and influence. Categorized this way, three types of religious organization exist: church, sect, and cult. A church, a church further has two subtypes, the ecclesia and denomination. Church is a large, bureaucratically organized religious organization that is closely integrated into the larger society. Church Church is an established religious organization that is well integrated in a large society. A large body of people belonging to an established religious group that has strong ties to the larger society. The Christian Church is the most global religious institution in the world. Ecclesia, a large bureaucratic religious organization that is a former part of the state and has most of all state citizens as its members. Ecclesia is a church that is formally allied with the state organization in which all people in the society are members by virtue of their birth. Denomination, a large bureaucratic religious organization that is closely integrated into the larger society but is not a formal part of the state. Denominations tend to coexist on relatively positive terms with other denominations and have established their role in society. Most mainstream Protestant Christian groups, such as Baptists, Lutherans, and Methodists, are denominations. Well-established organizations in which a substantial portion of the population are members. Denomination is a church independent of the state in societies that accept religious pluralism. Sect, a relatively small religious organization that is not closely integrated into the larger society and that often conflict with at least some of its norms and values. Sect is a subgroup that breaks away from a larger religion organization. A small organization that typically has split off from a denomination because of doctrines differences. Sect members may disagree with the way the largest group interprets the religious doctrines. Cult, a small religious organization that is at great odds with the norms and values of the larger society. Cult is a new or different religion whose teaching put it at odds with the dominant culture. A group that does what a leader tells them to do more than following a set of beliefs. Cults can be viewed as very dangerous as the members are uncritical following the leader's belief structures. They can easily be persuaded to do highly unethical and illegal acts. 5 major world religions. Globalization brings a culture of pluralism, meaning religions with overlapping but distinctive ethics and interests interact with one another. Essentially, the world's leading religious traditions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Judaism, teach values such as human dignity, equality, freedom, peace, and solidarity. More than 70% of the world population identify with one of these 5 religions around the world. All of these religions have their own religious books and believe in life after death. Religion has played a highly important role in the lives of human beings. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism are the 5 of the great religions of the world. Christianity is the world's biggest religion with over 2.1 billion followers worldwide. Christianity is a monotheistic religion, which means that followers believe there is only one true God. A central focus of this religion is the belief that Jesus died as a result of being crucified on a cross, leading to the forgiveness of mankind's sins. United United States is home to the largest Christian population, but Christianity is widespread in many other places including Canada, Mexico, the Philippines, several African nations, many European countries, and numerous Caribbean islands. Islam, the second largest religion with over 1.5 billion followers. The Islamic religion is based on the teaching of the Prophet of Muhammad in their holy book, the Quran. Followers of Islam are based primarily in the Asian Pacific region and in the Middle East. This religion is believed to have begun in the 7th century BC in what is now Saudi Arabia. While Muslims live in many countries worldwide, they make up the majority of the population in several countries. Hinduism is considered the oldest religion in the world and is the world's third largest religion, boasting almost 1 billion followers. Hinduism began in India around 2300 BC and remains prevalent on the subcontinent. It is the third religion in the world with fewer followers than only Christian and Islam. Buddhism has more than 350 million followers worldwide, and its followers believe attaining nirvana is the ultimate goal. Buddhism was founded in the 5th century BC by Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as the Buddha. The vast majority of Buddhists live in the eastern and southeastern region of Asia. And lastly, Judaism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions, and the religion texts have influenced Christianity and Islam. Judaism is the smallest of the top 5 religions. The worldwide population of Jewish people is estimated to be approximately 14 million.